My favorite bounty hunter all time, ever since he made his appearance on screen, was Boba Fett. And I remember being in school and I told all my friends, oh, Boba Fett is the coolest and stuff like that. And everybody just said, no, he's just a bounty hunter. It's no big deal at all. But I thought Boba Fett was really cool because I love the fact that he always had his helmet on. You never saw his face. And there was one thing about it which a lot of people never realize, that he always had his gun with him ready for action, which the only other people in the movie that did that were the stormtroopers. If you remember, the stormtroopers were always holding, they were holding their guns. Now here is the other bounty hunter that I thought did not receive any screen time at all, which I'm sure somebody must have thought about it, and I was hoping that they would bring this character to the screen, which I don't think exactly happened, is Boushh, the Ubisi bounty hunter. This is the story that I know when Jedi was released. Boushh was actually in a gunfight, and he died in the gunfight. And his disguise was sold to Princess Leia, because Princess Leia at that time was putting together the plan to go to Jabba the Hutt to rescue Han Solo, right? That was how the storyline was going. Now, there are some stories I have read later on where they said that, there was a gunfight between Boushh and Princess Leia, and that's what happened and all that stuff. But I really don't think that was the story. The story was simple that, remember, these are all bounty hunters working for different crime lords. Jabba the Hutt is one crime lord or crime syndicate, the family, the Hutts is one side. Then there's another one on the other side, which I forgot the name right now, but I'm sure somebody in my comments will tell me what those names are. So Boba Fett belonged to Jabba the Hutt's palace, right? This gang, but Boushh belonged to the other syndicate. So when in the gunfight, when Boushh died, of course, Boba Fett knew about it. And because see, Boba Fett is a very good bounty hunter, not because he's quick with his gun, it's because he's connected. His information is very good. He always gets the correct information from his informants. That is why the Mandalorians are very good at hunting down things. So he obviously knew that the Ubisi bounty hunter, Boushh, died in the gunfight. So he was surprised to see Boushh show up at Jabba the Hutt. Now, those of you who remember Return of the Jedi, the movie, the original movie, you remember Boushh didn't just walk into Jabba the Hutt. There was a gunfight. There was a small gunfight before Boushh came barging in holding Chewbacca. Boushh actually belongs to the other syndicate, but he brought Chewbacca, or at least captured Chewbacca for Jabba the Hutt. Maybe there's a backstory there which I'm not too sure about. But the way the story that I remember it as, Jabba the Hutt actually knew already, because of Boba Fett telling him, that he knew that Boushh had already died in a gunfight. So obviously the person who was standing in front of him holding Chewbacca is a fake bounty hunter. So he entertained the transaction. If I remember correctly, I think 50,000 was the price asked, and then they settled on 35,000. or 30,000, I forget. Anyway, and of course everything was settled. But you remember the scene where Boushh actually turns around, and of course you see Boba Fett giving the little nod, because Boba Fett is like saying hello, but actually Boba Fett is very, very careful. He's a very good bounty hunter, and he knew that, wait a minute, there's something going on here, and that is not Boushh the bounty hunter right there. So they let the whole thing play along, and that's why at night when Princess Leia obviously rescued Han Solo from the carbon freeze, the whole court was actually in hiding, and they were all like, the lights came back on, and they were all there. So, that's the story that I remember as far as this character is concerned. Now, I think that this is, if you actually look at the figure as on its own, it is a beautifully made action figure. Most of us don't remember that the figure was always released as Princess Leia. I would have loved to see the original Boushh figure, because the original Boushh figure, the bounty hunter himself, was never really in any of the movies. It was like a side story. But I would have loved if they had the character where they released it. The other thing about this character is, out of all the action figures that I remember owning, at least, okay, I'm sure there must have been others also, but I really don't think so. This is the only action figure where the helmet is detachable. I don't think any other action figure where you, like for example, Stormtroopers, you could not really take off the helmet. Boba Fett, you could not take off his helmet. Darth Vader, you could not take off his helmet. Who else? Any of the X-wing fighters or TIE fighters, you could not really remove those helmets. Everything was fixed. But this Boushh character, which is Princess Leia, if you can see, it's beautifully made, and the helmet comes off, which I thought was very, very cool as a toy. Because the details, the execution, the design, and the details to it was so superb that right now it's in front of me 35 years later, and I still think it's one of the most beautifully made action figure of the whole Star Wars series. But if you look at this one, it looks like it was done very artistic. It's basically a sculpture, and that's why it's one of my most favorite figures. But I love the idea of bounty hunters, because that's really cool. That is such a great element to the whole Star Wars movies. It's like, the galaxy, the Empire could not catch the Falcon, but leave it to Boba Fett to catch the Falcon. And that's another story over there, because Boba Fett tracked down, because he knew that Han Solo was going to go see his friend Lando Calrissian. Lando Calrissian, as you all know, was the original owner of the Millennium Falcon that he lost in some kind of a card game to Han Solo. I don't know if you know that story, but that's actually part of the movie. So that's the reason why Boba Fett actually found out and caught up with Han Solo and everybody else in Bespin City. So I hope you like my little explanation, my story from my memory, from what I remember about this character. It's one of the most, I have it right here, it's just one of the most beautifully made characters, one of my favorites, of course. And thank you very much. I hope you subscribe, and so you can hear more of my Star Wars stories. I have more characters. I'm going to introduce them one by one. And thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.